take the personality quiz about what's your money personality. Jessica and I both thought I was going to be one, and it turned out I was another.
I worked with researchers to develop this, and in developing it, I was like, oh yeah, you are that. That makes so much sense. I don't want you to change who you are. I want you to be more mindful as that individual. You can still be carefree and love spending your money, but here are the things that you should also be doing just so you're more mindful about it.
I'm Elysia Skye, and this is the Brilliance Method podcast. Through mindful, motivational, and often hilarious conversations with thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and executives, you'll discover new ways to create your life on purpose. Hello, my friend. Welcome to the Brilliance Method. Today, I am so giddy and already cracking up because I'm hanging out with one of my best friends in the entire world. You know, I have a lot of really close friends, but there's only a couple of best friends, and this is one. Jessica's invited to the Death Cruise and the compound, so we'll get into that in a second. Jessica is the head of content for the Singleton Foundation nonprofit, and she created groovemoney.org, which we are going to talk about today. And Jessica manages large teams while working closely with revenue and product and tech teams to create new profit-driving content initiatives while growing the brand. And this badass queen is an award-winning branded content expert. She pitches creative branded content for top creative agencies, including the New York Times and the New Yorker. I remember when you got the job at the Times. That was so cool. I remember when you were at Bankrate and then the Times published your article and all those fun things. It's been so fun to see you thrive and cheer you on over the years. So I'm just so thrilled and happy to have her on the show because she is a busy executive, a busy mom, and a great friend to many, including myself. Hi, Jess.
Hello. Thank you. It's weird hearing about all of the things that you do from somebody else, especially like someone that you're friends with and you're like, okay, calm down. Like that's it. We're good here. We're good here.
So if you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. And one of the things that you do in Groove Money is you talk about money, our money energy, our money personalities. And for a lot of us, talking about money is taboo. It's not fun. It's scary. We don't want to look at it. There is fear associated with it. And you help break down all those barriers and not just make it palatable, but make it fun, interesting, and enjoyable with the content you created on the site. And also the fact that you created this thing at all. So can you tell us a little bit about what Groove Money is?
Yeah. So Groove is something that was created by me because everything else I saw that was out there to help people with money were created by investment bankers or people in the fintech space or the education space. And the problem with that is they wanted to do good, but they didn't know how to go about doing good, right? And so part of that for me was how do I do that, and how do I make it so you're not just learning about the thing and taking a test on the thing, right? Because when I got to Singleton Foundation, they're like, listen, we have all this content. What do you want to do with it? Can you just keep managing it? And like we're getting it from a third party. And I was like, but you want to measure impact. How do you can't measure impact with this? And they're like, well, there's quizzes. And I said, but if I ask somebody what a mortgage is and then they don't know it and then they do know it, is that going to help them actually get a house? No, it's not going to do anything. You're not getting them to a place of actually doing the thing that you want them to do. So for me, it was like, how am I able, from a data perspective, to get somebody to do the thing I want them to do? One. And two, how do I tell them about it without boring them and freaking them out and letting them know that it's okay to be scared. It's okay to have this feeling. You're not alone in this feeling. And here's how to navigate those feelings. And here's how to navigate the not knowing so that you don't feel less than, and so that you're have that confidence and that competence to go out and do the things that you want to do with your finances. So that's how Groove kind of came about. And then it literally started with me drawing out a user flow of like, it's going to start here, and then if you're this person, you're going to do this, and going through that line and adding to it, placing things to get to a place where this you start at this step and then build it out. Because originally I'm like, hey, can you build this thing? And they're like, yeah, but we don't know what to build because you're not telling us what to build. You have to give us the Legos. So essentially I gave them the Legos to build it out for us.
Wow. And so that's something that a lot of entrepreneurs don't think about. And when you are an entrepreneur working for a big company, the term is really like intrapreneur, because you have that entrepreneurial spirit and mindset and creativity. And you are so creative, Jess, since the moment I met you in your style and your energy and your music. And I was just so drawn to being your friend, and I wanted to be your friend. And I saw you hanging out with other kids at school, and I'm like, I want her to be my friend. And I feel like I stole you from like your cool kids group and like brought you
You
to
know,
my nerddom.
I'm okay with that. I tell the kids all the time about how, you kind of saved me from that though, because I think that the cool kids were fine, but they also had a lot of bad decisions in there, and I didn't know how to navigate that. And with you, I didn't have to worry because we made the same stupid decisions, but we never made nerve-wracking stupid decisions. We only made the stupid decisions that were just dumb enough, right, to not get you into a whole heap of trouble. So it kind of
Uh-huh. It's funny to even think about it that way. And I wonder how many people like reflect on like, what kind of kid was I? And we were responsible, but we pushed the envelope. It was like, what can we get away with to the point where we're not going to die or get arrested, but we can have
Yep.
the most fun.
Oh
And right. And so when you apply that mindset to creating a business or a product, it becomes something magical, like what you did.
yeah, like you push the boundaries of what you're capable of, and that was one thing at the times. I remember when I would come up with these ideas, and I was like, well, I don't know if we can do this. They're like, we can do anything you want to do, and I was like, wait, what? For real? And they're like, yep, if you have a great idea and you want to build it, we will come up with a way to build that thing. And I was like, and it was just like this, like, here's the keys to do something amazing. And I was like, oh, this is going to be good. So now I understand the lift that's involved in a lot of those more complicated things, but in the holistic side of it, it's like it keeps me pushing that envelope to do those things that are a little bit dangerous and a little bit scary, but knowing that I'm still in a safe space because I know within myself that I'm not going to push it to where I'm making poor decisions.
Well, that like takes us full circle into talking about finances, because people like myself have pushed it to the point of making poor decisions. I have been in and out of debt cycles in my entire life. And, when I look back at my own money story, I can rationalize and make sense of every big decision and big money move I've made, including the great ones, including all of my investments. And, I have a beautiful life and I have a beautiful real estate portfolio. And there are still things that I'm trying to figure out. And I don't know if we ever like grow up financially. Like, do we like, we're adulting so hard, like just living these lives, and you have kids and the things that we do and buying houses and having jobs or creating jobs. But it's like, not everybody teaches us how to money. And my
Yeah.
parents certainly didn't. I mean, my dad was like in and out of prison. He joined a cult. My mom died when I was 12. I'm like, this sounds like a crazy, sad story, but I figured it out, and but there was no manual for it.
Mm-mm. And I think that's the thing, right? If it's an interesting place because in the era that we grew up in, our parents weren't like, this is how much this stuff costs and this is why this is and this is how this is. And it wasn't also in that time of scarcity where every penny really mattered, right? It was like a weird mix of like abundance and scarcity combined, that they also never talked about it, right? Because it became very taboo to talk about money, and not just money, but like the idea of the how much things cost, right? Because it just
Mhm.
wasn't talked about, right? And so how do
Why?
you
Why don't we talk to our kids about how much things cost?
I think part of it was that you didn't want your kids, and even now, like when the kids ask me how much money I make, right? I was like, it's not relevant, but this is how much it costs to have a birthday party. This is how much this thing costs, right? So I'll talk to them about those things, but part of it is because of the fact that you don't want your kids blabbing all over the neighborhood if you're struggling financially, right? Because it's
Right.
embarrassing. It feels embarrassing, even though the other people might be having the exact same thing. It's nerve wracking, and you have that anxiety about being looked at differently by society. So it's a societal behavioral thing of like protection, right? I'm not going to share this
Mhm.
with you because I'm protecting myself from the shame that I could potentially face, from the ridicule, from the pity that I don't want, right? Like, so it's all of those things. And so for me, when I talk to my kids, like I still don't tell them like, oh, this is how much I make and this is how much this like, but they know how much the house costs. They know how much the house is worth. They know how much it costs if we want to go to Universal. And I'll let them even weigh in on those decisions. Like, hey, we can do this or we can do this. Which one of these things would you rather do? These are the costs of both of them, right? And then they can help make that decision with us, because and the older one understands it more than the younger one does, because the younger one's like, just stay at the nice hotel and let's just do the whole thing. And I'm like,
I'm with him. I'm with
yeah.
Cooper.
And like, it doesn't work that way. And it's like, oh
No.
no, what have I raised? The kid who's just like, yeah, the best, please. It's like, no, I'm not setting you up for success. So it's just a
That's so
matter
funny.
of navigating that, right?
Yeah, they
And
only have so much perspective to compare anything to, so I would understand not telling them what you make. And also, on the flip side of it, if you make more than other families in the neighborhood, then you don't want other families feeling shame coming to your house, and, and vice versa. So you're such a great mom.
thank you. But yeah, like I think that again, going back to that idea though, all about trying to figure out, your understanding of money and how that carries over, right? You and I weren't taught that, so it was up to us to be like, figure it out, good luck, have fun, and you're like, wait, what, huh?
What's
And
funny is, like, when Jessica and I were young, we wanted money. And I had a job at a hair salon that my mom actually helped me get when I was 12 years old. It was the hair salon that we went to. And so I would shampoo hair, I would answer the phones, I would sweep the floors, I would wash the towels. And it was called the Hair Company in, was it Pembroke Pines, Florida? And so then Jessica got a job there. I was like, hey, you want a job? And I'm like, here's what I know. You want a job that pays you cash, because then you actually have money, because then you have cash money, right? And it was like, ooh, we got a cash job.
yeah,
That was
yeah,
fun. Was that your first job?
that was, well, outside of babysitting. Yeah, that was like my first. Like I remember having to wake up on Saturday mornings and like drive down there and like wash hair all day and like feel terrible when like you accidentally got water down somebody's back. Like, oh
Oh God. Or, it was like the early 90s and some people were still getting perms. And I remember putting shampoo on someone's hair after the perm had set, because I didn't know you're not supposed to shampoo out the perm chemical, and just being so scared because I almost got fired. But that's what you get when you hire a 12-year-old to like deal with chemicals. Just
yeah.
gonna put just gotta say that, even though thank you for the job.
Yeah. And it
Um,
was like it was a wonderful experience. And again, it really helped me. I was literally earlier this morning talking about when I was in college and how I worked when I was in college. And one of the jobs I had, same job, like at another hair salon, and I would sit there and I would clean the combs and sweep the floor and shampoo everybody's hair. And like that was like, because I had the experience, and it was great because the other part of it was like closing down the register, and it helped me learn like, here's how to add things up, here's how to make sure it equals out, here's how to tally, and all of those kinds of things. And so for us, it gave me that extra understanding of money, of like what's coming in, what, all of those kinds of different pieces. So
That's
it was
interesting. I never thought about it that way, but I do remember looking at the book, because back then it was all just pen and paper. And
yeah,
I remember looking at the book and looking at, okay, this is what's happening on the books today, and I would add it up, and I'd be like, ooh, the salon's making like $800 today, or whatever it was, right? It was a
yeah,
very affordable salon,
yeah,
and it was it was like $20 for a haircut or something. But I remember thinking about that, like it helped me gain some perspective about like what things cost, because if we left at the end of the day with $50, right? It was like, great. That was a great day. $100. That was a miracle. Like that happened
yeah,
a couple of times. Right. Then it's like, what do we do with that money?
yeah. And that's
I-
that's where it gets interesting, right? Because that's where it goes down to what you're taught, right? And I've seen like the three buckets of like, you should save this, you can spend this, and you should like put this part to charity, right? Or invest that part, whatever
Mhm.
the thing was. Like when you're teaching kids, it's usually save, spend, and invest. And I didn't have anybody telling me that. And like it's interesting though, because I never wanted to spend everything that I had, right? And then in like, but my siblings, like I had siblings who they would get like jobs and they would get their paycheck and they would spend all, I will never forget, one of them came to visit and they spent their entire paycheck at a candy outlet. The entire thing, saved
That sounds
zero.
great.
I was like, what do you mean? You spent all your money on candy, Whereas, like, for me, I always got nervous when it got low, I was like, like, I never wanted to run out. And so
Mm.
it was that mindset of, I don't want to run out. I don't want to run out of this.
But where did that come from? Because you have the same parents. So one kid was totally willing to blow it all, and the other kid, you, is like, no, there needs to be some in reserve. So where does that feeling come from?
I think it's just that anxiety that constantly lives inside of me about everything.
That's fair.
What's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? So, like, I just need this $2, like, who.
Yeah, you want to feel safe.
And even if it didn't really make a difference, it was the fact that I had something instead of nothing. Like, I was talking about my budget earlier today, and I was like, I'd rather have a little bit more and know that I have that cushion rather than have to go ask for. I think that's what it was, right? And this is literally in my life having this conversation. I said I would rather have a little bit more and not spend it at the end of the day and know that I could give that back versus not having it and having to go ask for more. And that's just me. I don't want to have to go ask for more. I want to be able to make do with what I have. And so that's, I think, where that I would rather ask for more upfront rather than ask for less and then not have enough. Is that kind of thing. It's that idea, I guess, of scarcity where that comes from,
Mhm.
and just.
Sure, but also on the flip side of it, that's honestly great negotiating. You're doing it with yourself, but that skill then translates to when we grow up and we have jobs, and it's like, no, you want to ask for what you're worth so that you don't have to just settle for something and then hope for a raise or hope for a bonus. So I think that mindset actually set you up for success despite anxiety, but anxiety is anxiety.
Well, I think that, yes, but I think it took me a long time to get there, especially regards to myself, because I think that in general, women undervalue themselves, right?
Recently, you and I are working on a project. We need to hire somebody, and we're open to hiring two people. And the difference between the roles is significant. It's one is a certain amount of money, and the other is half that amount of money. And what we noticed, and you and I talked about just kind of as like a psychological observation, was the one that was the full amount of money
Mm-hmm.
were a lot of male submissions. And the one that was half the amount of money were a lot of women. And to a certain degree, the jobs are very similar. One of them is just calling for a higher, degree of success versus the
Yeah.
other one. But really what it came down to was women were not valuing themselves enough. And even the recruiters and whatnot who were submitting for these roles for this hire were submitting women more for the lower paid role. And
Yeah.
it's just it's fascinating and it's upsetting, but this is where Groove comes in because you are changing that paradigm and you're helping people learn to value themselves.
Yeah, and I think that that's part of it too. It's just that understanding and that ability to negotiate, right? And the ability to see that there is room, right? Like, maybe not as much room as you'd like, but sometimes you have to also look at the big picture, right? With regards to a job. It's like, okay, well, maybe I won't get paid as much, but I'll have more financial freedom, or I'll have more work life balance or more freedom to do what brings me joy in my life, right? So I'm not stuck working so much. And I think that that's really important when you're thinking about a job. It's the pay is always important, but all those other pieces that come into play are super important too. And
Well,
that.
so valuable, right? So valuable. And you work in the nonprofit space. And I'm not sure specifically about Singleton, and I'm not asking you to divulge that, but notoriously in nonprofit, salaries are lower, right? So if salaries are lower in nonprofit, then what are you exchanging? You're exchanging impact, and then you're negotiating. Okay, maybe I can work from home part time, or maybe I could do this or do this. And it's beautiful what you guys have created.
It's so I can tell you this, in every job that I've ever worked, I've never felt so appreciated. I've never felt so rewarded, and I've never felt so happy to be working for a place that really wants to make a difference, and
Awesome.
that's it's a great feeling to know that what you're working for is the greater good at the end of the day. It gives you that ability to do that I don't I wouldn't I'd never had before. Or I was judged because, hey, my kids are sick. Oh, you have to take off work? Yeah, I got to go pick them up from daycare. Oh, well, are you going to be online later? Yes, I'll be online later. Even if I was working until 11 or 12 o'clock, I was still judged negatively for having to leave and not be in the office. Or if I had to go do something, it was looked at negatively. Whereas, and I do think that COVID shifted that a little bit too with individuals, but I've never been at a place that has cared so much about me as a person than any place else. And it's just a wonderful feeling. And I tell people, like, as I brought more people on, I was like, you're never going to meet nicer people. I said, it is just a good place to be. It just feels good to be here. So
Oh
it's
my
great.
gosh. And I wish that for every one of my friends and every one of my corporate clients. And I have a lot of corporate clients and not everybody talks about their culture that way. So what do you think attributes to that so that people who are listening who have influence in their company culture can adapt some of the things that create those feelings?
I think it's just being human, right? Like, I think that so often you get caught up in the bureaucracy of like, this needs to get done and this needs to get done. And like, we're doing things and like looking productive is not necessarily being
Mm,
productive, right? Like,
yep.
you can look busy all day long, but it doesn't mean you're actually doing something. And so for me, that was a big piece of it. And I think that the other thing is, everybody I work with is a person. And I always took that in my managerial like workings and inner workings. Like, I remember taking managerial classes because they were required once you became a manager. And I remember taking them, and I would sit there and I would be taking notes and be like, yes, I resonate with this, and I can see these kinds of personalities and these kinds of people. And there were other people in the thing, they'd be like, I'm not going to this, I'm too busy to be bothered with this. And I said, this is a really important skill that you should be identifying with. Like, I already kind of know this stuff, but you guys don't know what you're doing because you were just promoted, and like, you need this more than I need this. But I knew I needed to be there because it was important to me, and they looked at it as an afterthought. And so for me, I always take that into consideration. I always take that idea of like, when I talk to somebody, the first thing before I ever start a meeting, how are you? How are you doing today? Because if I don't take that moment, I feel like there's no connection there, especially now when you talk to somebody via Zoom or online or something like that. There's no connection if I'm like, let's do this work and let's do this thing. It creates that disconnect of, you are something on a screen and you are not a person, right? And so
Mhm.
for me, it's about keeping that humanity, and that's what they do there. Like, the understanding, the ability to talk freely, and the ability to talk with one another and feel like not only are you supported in doing something that you want to do, but also when you need support, they're there to provide it. So I think that that's a big piece of it. It's seeing the humanity in others and not just looking at them for a skill that they might have.
That's so awesome. And I hope that your coworkers get to see this and hear this praise because not everybody realizes the impact that they have. And when you have such a beautiful culture and you're happy at your job and you appreciate each other, then you take that energy home and then you're nicer to your kids and your partner and your neighbors and all that stuff. So there's this trickle down effect. And and part of that kindness, Jess, I think is like one of the things that we just love about each other. And like when you and I go out to eat, you always, the server comes up and you're like, how are you? How is your day? Right? You do that, you engage with people, and it's just so lovely and refreshing. And one of my favorite analogies about that is in The Wedding Singer, when when Robbie and Julia are looking for a limo driver, right? And then his limo driver friend is like driving around and he's hitting all the cones and he's trying to get it fast and he shoves the bride and groom in the car, right? And then Adam Sandler looks at his watch and he's like, "Nope, you failed. We're not gonna hire you." He's like, "What? I did it. I did it." He's like, "You hit like 10 cones." He's like, "Those could
They
have been
were
guests at our
cold.
wedding," right? They were cones.
Yeah.
Like, they're not cones. These are people. These are not just numbers, right? And so when you come from, you lived and worked in LA, I lived and worked in LA and New York, and it's like so often in these big companies in these big cities, like people just think, oh, they're just numbers. And that is a messed up way to look at business ever, especially customers too, right? They're not just numbers.
Yeah, and I think now it really depends too, right? And because there's a mix. There's also a balance, right? Because you still need them to participate as workers, and I think sometimes if you kind of lean too much into that emotional part and constantly lean on that, then it can lead to laziness, and it can lead to not performing, because then everyone's
100%.
like, I don't feel good today, I don't want to go into work today, I don't. And that's also not okay. Like, I
Right.
had worked at a place once where I was like, yeah, it's fine if you work from home, sometimes, like, but you need to come in. They're like, but the commute's 15 minutes. I was like, 15 minutes? You can't drive 15 minutes to make it in here. Like, that's where your line is. Like, so for me, seeing that line be, like that, I felt like was taking advantage of somebody's kindness, right? And I'm like, yeah, if
Yep.
you need to work from home, I'm more than happy to accommodate. You need to leave early for a doctor's appointment? Please go. Like, just, yeah, that's fine, no problem. But it's when the advantage part comes along, or like, I have all of these things. You're like, listen, there's only, you can, I'm going to be nice to you up to a finite amount of time, because then I feel like I'm being taken advantage of. Like, if you reciprocate that kindness and you understand that as well, then we're fine. But I think there is that balance still, right, between the two.
Yeah. That's what makes you a great manager and a great leader. And, one of my biggest learning curves that my husband called me out on is I just wanted to be friends with everybody. And when you want everybody to like you and you want everybody to be your friend and you want them to feel like they're safe with you and they're your friend, then that starts to happen. And I found myself at a period of time, paying people and they were hardly or barely working, or they weren't doing a good enough job. And then because our relationship became so intertwined and personal, because I thought I was just checking on them, caring about them. How are you? How is your kid? How's your da da da? And then it's like, now if I need to course correct them or give them feedback, it feels weird or it feels bad. So that was a learning curve for me in management, and it sucked, quite frankly. So to your point, it is really important. And of course, they're not just numbers, they're people. At the end of the day, we're a team and we have to treat each other with respect and take responsibility for our responsibilities.
Yep. In the middle of your story, I immediately referenced there was an old Seinfeld episode about when Jerry hires he has a house cleaner and he starts dating her, and he's like, wait a second, there's cash in the account. He's like, but you didn't clean the apartment. He's like, are you my house cleaner right now, or are you my girlfriend? She's like, I'm your girlfriend right now. And he's like, so when are you gonna be my house cleaner? And so then it was like this weird fine line. He's like, so wait, what am I paying you money for right now? Wait, what's happening? So he got very, it was like that confusion of like, what am I paying for? Because am I, like, and it was like this whole big thing that surrounded
Awkward.
that idea. Yeah.
There's so much we can talk about in regards to this. And I love that we got into the idea of leadership, because so many of my guests on the show are just very black and white entrepreneurs. This is their business. And you're an employee at this
Yeah.
company. But you come from such a strong management background and what you've learned and what you've done. And you're a bossy friend. So I get it. I get why you're really good at it.
The thing is, like, I'm bossy, but I'm like within limits, right? Like, I that's the thing, like, and it's very funny because it goes back to the whole women empowerment thing. Because when you think about it, when you're younger, you're bossy, but if you're a man, oh no, look, he just is really leadership driven and this and that. And I was like, well, wait, why I'm not bossy. I just like want things to be done a certain way, and I like things to be done a certain way. And I think that it's going to be better for everyone if we just do them that way. But that's not to say, like, I think we also know people who say things like, we should do this. And it's like, well, nobody else wants to do that. Well, yes, we do. We are going to this place, and so I think that I'm maybe not that intense, but I think for me, having been through what I've been through, sometimes it's easier. And the other piece of that, and I think, is there's a lot of intuition there, right? There's a lot of intuition because I feel like I already know what's going to happen sometimes before it happens. And I feel like I know what people are going to say or how people are going to react before I even say it. And so I'm
Mhm.
very good at kind of reading the room and knowing that's going to happen. But the reverse of that is other people around me don't have that same ability. And so it's very confusing to me sometimes, where I'm like, well, didn't you know that this is what I was going to do? And they're like, no, you didn't say what you were going to do. And I was like, oh, I have to say those things out. Like, you can't see what I'm seeing because I know what you're going to do, but you don't know what I'm going to do. And so it's a weird position to kind of be in. But again, it also is helpful because it allows you to see how people's feelings are and to understand them on a deeper level and be more ready to handle their problems than just being like, why is this person upset? You can automatically, when they come into the room, you can be like, what's going on? Something's not right, and they immediately feel a bit deeper connection, right? When you're like,
Mm.
hey, oh wow, you see me, but you can also read them better. So you can have that better kind of piece of it.
100%. And the most successful people rely on their intuition. And I have had conversations, I've sat across from billionaires, and they absolutely rely on their intuition. They trust themselves. And I believe that everybody is intuitive and everybody has the ability to tap into their intuition. But what gets in the way is distraction, worry, and mindless anxiety. And what I mean by mindless anxiety is it is that anxiety that comes through because you're worrying about all the things and you're thinking about the future that you forget to drop into the present moment. And when you drop into the present moment, like you said, you can kind of feel what's going on with someone. And that's one of your superpowers, Jess. And on a human level, we might call that being sensitive. And a lot of people don't like the fact that they're sensitive, especially, when it comes to a feminine or masculine dynamic. But sensitivity is so special because it gives you the abilities that you were just talking about. It gives you those shortcuts.
Yeah. I was originally going to disagree with you and say I don't think everybody's intuitive. I think that it's truly something that you have to, but then as in further introspection, it's like no, they probably have some of it, but then they just tune it out because it's very easy to turn off the magic, right?
Mhm.
The way I put it with my children, right? When I know how things are feeling, when I know what's going to happen, is that I'm magic. And they're like, well, why are you magic? And I said, because I know I can see it. I know what's happening and I believe in it. Right. And I can feel it. And then they were like, well, but it's so easy to take that magic away by just saying, I don't believe in that. And then it's gone. And
Like
once
Peter
you say, I
Pan.
don't believe in that, it doesn't come back because there's no, it's almost like you built that wall. And to then take down that wall is so much harder than to just never build it in the first place. And I think that's where a lot
Mhm.
of it comes into too, right? Is the fact that like it's easy, it's very easy to build the wall. You can say I just don't believe anymore. That's not me. I don't want to be that person. Choop, done, I don't want
Mhm.
to cry over this thing. Boop, done. But to get that wall down and to be open to those things again is significantly harder. And that's where like that lack of intuition, and that's probably why a lot of people do say I don't have that intuition. So
Yeah, that's totally fair. We're born with this innocence and this magic. And then when we have those loss of innocence moments, like Miss Bev taught us, I actually talked about her on my podcast with Sarah Calmetta, which is kind of funny. But, when we think about, we have those moments where, wow, maybe magic isn't real. Maybe intuition isn't real. Maybe I shouldn't trust myself. Maybe I make bad choices. So therefore I shouldn't trust myself. And when that happens, yeah, it's the inside work that you have to be dedicated to, whether it's, meditation or self-reflection or journaling, or just go on a friggin' vacation and don't look at your phone every 10 minutes, or 10 seconds. So it is hard work, it's like
yeah.
friggin' calories, man. It's the
Well, shout
same
out to
thing.
Miss Bev for one, because like game changer in not only forging our friendship to make it stronger, but to open us to so much. And it's very funny because this is just a side note right now. I'm making my older son, as you know, Asher. Over the summer, I'm making him read books, which he feels very much against. And he's like, I don't have to read. I'm on vacation. I'm on break. But I'm making him read The Giver. And it's a very important book, and he's like, well, why? I don't, is this book is terrible. This book is whatever. I want to read bad guys. And it's not to say that bad guys is bad, because I like the fact that he's reading and doing stuff and it encourages him to get lost in a book. But there's so much more, and there's so much there's a deeper purpose to The Giver that I think is important that he understands, especially because of the idea of a dystopian future, and this is what can happen when you take things away, especially memories, and like helping him understand that. And it's, for me, he's now finally getting into it. It took a lot of pushing and shoving to get through the first 4 chapters, and then today he's like, I'm on chapter 12, and I was like, see, you'll get there and you'll be done in no time because it's a short book. You just need to stop complaining and then get to it. He's like, oh, I get this now. I get this now. So it's different, but encouraging that reading and encouraging reading books that are thought provoking is super important. So again, that my little Miss Bev side note shout out, because
I
it's so.
mean, having a great teacher is a game changer. And and you're doing so great, because like disassociating the idea of books being a burden, because school is hard, or hard work, or burdensome, or whatnot. You're changing that pattern. I remember when my mom did that with me, because I was really little, and so I had read Dr. Seuss books and all these other books, and I wanted my books to have pictures and big font, and I wanted it to be fun. And I still see patterns like that in my life. Like, if it's not fun, I'm not friggin' doing it. And I remember she said to me, okay, I want you to read a book that doesn't have pictures, and I'm going to give you a penny a page, and I'm going to pay you to read the book a penny a page. So what did my smartass do? I went to the bookshelf in her room, and I picked the biggest book I could find, which was Count of Monte Cristo. And I read it when I was like 7 years old. And I was like, that will be $3.50, please. I read the book.
I
Right. And then
bet.
and then she showed me the movie, and I still reference that movie. So he will reference The Giver one day. This is a time when those little memories, from a hypnotherapy and a brain study perspective, you're implanting these different behavior patterns in a positive way.
Yeah, and I think that it's so important too, because there's so many things that are out there, right? And so many books and so many options. But there are, even with all the new amazing books that are coming out, there are still classics that hold true, and they hold true for a reason, and that's what I'm trying to get him to also understand, is the fact that, like, yes, this book is old, but yes, it's still valid, and it's important to be reading it and to know what it means. Because I guarantee you, when you're writing papers in high school, there's going to be something, and you're going to have to reference symbolism and something. Well, what symbolism? Well, you'll figure it out. But so you're going to have it, and it's going to be part of your whole thing. So
Absolutely. And I think that's also what encouraged us to think outside the box in our creativity, is understanding those different tools in literature, like symbolism and foreshadowing, and analogies, and all the things. And when I think about Groove Money and the quiz that you take, having the personality, like identifying with like a money personality, it makes it fun. And by being able to see like quadrants and understand, it helps you take responsibility so that you can make different choices. The same way that when you're breaking down literature, you can understand the different pieces of it and then interpret it and learn how to apply it to your life. And I would love you to share with everybody about the money personalities, so that really, if you're listening or watching, go to groovemoney.org or .com. It'll redirect you, and take the personality quiz about what's your money personality. And Jessica and I both thought I was gonna be one, and it turned out I was another. And I think I give off a persona of, this is who I am, and this is how I live my life, and this is how I spend my money. But then when I'm really honest with myself, and if you take a personality quiz, you should be really honest, it shows, oh wait, maybe I take some big freaking risks that sometimes pay off and sometimes don't. So that was really cool to learn more about myself through doing that.
I'm so glad that we did that, because I remember when you took it, I was like, oh no, you're a dreamer like me. What do you mean you're something else? And then I was like, you're something else. And then I actually, like, and again, I worked with researchers to develop this, and in developing it, I was like, oh yeah, you are that. That makes so much sense. Like, when I really thought about it, like, that's exactly who you were. But I knew who I was immediately. And it was funny, because even the researchers who I worked with as we were developing it, they're like, oh, we know who you are, Jessica. We already know. We know. And they were 100% spot on that I was a dreamer. But it's not just some kind of Cosmo quiz, right? That's just like, take this test and see what kind of fruit you are. It's really like
What kind of fruit am I? Now I want to know.
a pineapple. No.
Yeah, baby.
Um, but it's really in depth, and it talks about all of these different like, it puts together all of these different validated studies, whether it's about how you spend your money, or your propensity for risk, or how you just feel generally about different things. And it puts it all together to give you an output, and then using that and aligning it with different personality types and different personality profiles, and it gives you this really robust kind of money personality. And the big thing about it is that it's not bad or wrong to be one of those things. It's, oh, I get it now. Now I know why I do. Oh, this makes total sense. Yeah, I'm totally this person, right? And it's not change to be like as me, like I'm a dreamer. It's not change who you are. It's understand who you are. You don't like if you sometimes your life courses, your life stages change, and that would lead you to kind of go from being a dreamer to potentially being a cautious enthusiast or something else. But on the whole, like if you're one thing, I don't want you to change who you are. I want you to be more mindful as that individual. You can still be carefree and love spending your money, but here are the things that you should also be doing just so you're more mindful about it. You don't have to plan for the next day, but just make sure you have something set aside for an emergency fund. Make sure that you are investing for your future. Make sure that you're doing these things that you're probably not thinking about because you're like, hey, I'm going out of town. I'm going to go have some fun, you know? And so it's that kind of
Mhm.
mindset and aligning that and understanding that.
Show will be right back in 30 seconds. And right now, I wanted to share with you that as a lighthouse, I love shining a light on others. And today, I want to spotlight my friend, Lynn Louise Larson. She's the host of the Cosmic Valkyrie podcast, where ancient wisdom meets quantum science to help you align with your highest self. Every week, Lynn shares transmissions that blend energy, identity, and intuition in a way that is clear, powerful, and inspiring. If you're ready to release old patterns and step into your brilliance, go subscribe to the Cosmic Valkyrie podcast and let her guidance support your journey.
Before we get into the different money personalities, because I know everybody wants to know which one they are, like what else can we find on the app in addition to video training?
We have a whole bunch of different things. The idea behind the app is to create new money habits, to understand your money mindset, and to build that confidence and competence through habit building, through goal setting, through understanding in a way that aligns to who you are, right? And so that's what the whole process is. And it's different from the other things that are out there because it's not just a budgeting app, although it has that. It's not just a retirement calculator because it has that. It's not just learning content because it has that. You know, it's putting it all together and taking that emotional heartbeat of how you feel about money and looking to shift it, really truly looking to shift your perspective on money, so you get rid of that shameful feeling, so you get rid of that anxiety, and that you're like, oh god, I feel it, but here's how to navigate it, right? I'm feeling super anxious about what's going on. I'm feeling really uncomfortable. Okay, well, what do I do? Oh, okay, Groove is going to tell me how I can do this. It's going to tell me, oh, you know what? I should probably set up a goal around this thing so that I'm actually feeling like I'm accomplishing something rather than just doing the thing and not caring about it. It has all those pieces in it. And it's not meant to turn you into a billionaire, you know, but although it could, but it's to guide you and to get you feeling less anxious, to get you feeling more confident, and to get you to a place where when you want to go buy that house, you can. When you want to pay down your debt, you know the steps to do that. When you want to negotiate for your job, you know the steps to take, and and you can feel good about doing them instead of just being like, I guess I got to do this. So it's all about empowering and making people feel better.
That is so essential, especially around finance. So thank you. I hope everybody goes and downloads it. There will be a link in the description. Not just downloads it, but I hope everybody goes and registers and does your money personality quiz and explores and gets to learn and gets to heal. So Jess, you said you're a dreamer. What does that mean?
That means I prefer the finer things in life. Um, I I love to spend money. I love it, love it, love it. It makes me happy to go and do things that I enjoy. It makes me happy to have and buy new things when somebody else needs them. I love giving things to people. I love that whole feeling of everything. But it also means I'm a hard worker, and it means that I work. I'm okay to put the work in and work hard and to be more creative too, right? Because I am a dreamer. Like I will come up with creative ways to make more money so I can spend more money, so it's kind of this vicious cycle in a way where I am, sitting here making the money, spending the money. How else can I do it? Okay, making the money, spending the money, and trying to figure it out because for me in my life I'm a very creative person, and so I need that outlet of some kind, and while I'm good at some other things, I need that creativity, and that is another driver, and to do that and kind of create that loop. So the downsides for me again are you spend too much money, so I'm constantly navigating that, and I don't like concrete things. And it's been funny because it's a challenge in building out a cash flow tool, which for a lot of people will just say, oh, that's a budget, right? But I hate budgeting. I hate it so much. I've tried to do it a million times. Even before building it, I was like, how can I make this so it doesn't feel like this thing that I can't stand? And
Mm-hmm.
how do I navigate this, and how do I change it? Because I know that there are people like me out there. When you're just starting out, the last thing you want to do is just categorize. Like, it's awful, it's stressful. It immediately makes me like, I'm out, I don't want to do this, I'm out.
Yeah, it doesn't feel
So
good.
yeah, and so how do I, so that's who I am. So I know that part of my journey as a dreamer is to get more comfortable with that, get more comfortable with understanding the limits, get more comfortable with also planning for the future and for emergencies and things like that, so that you're not just spending it all and then scrambling to go make it more of it, and that you're thinking, and you're, again, it's okay to spend money, but be mindful of how much you're spending and actually use that budget that you hate. So
Mm-hmm. Right. And find ways to not hate it. My couple of my clients and I, we get on Zoom once a week and we do what we call our fun, sexy date with money, which I got from Kate Northrup's book. And one of my clients, she puts on this really pretty crown, and I do essential oils, and then I light candles, and we joke who's wearing a bra, who's not wearing a bra, right? And so we just make it fun, because like I said, if it's not fun, I'm probably not going to do it. So every week I reconcile my QuickBooks, but I won't do it. And I should, but I just know I won't unless I'm doing it with my friends and we're laughing.
yep, yep.
And we put music on and we light candles, and like that's just how it is. So
And that's the thing, like, so there's another piece of Groove that's all about not just habits of with your money and like what you're doing, but also rituals, right? And making
mm,
something that requires mindfulness, making it more fun, making it more pleasurable. And that's exactly what you're doing. You're making the thing that requires, a habit is something that's done mindlessly, like putting your seatbelt on when you get into the car. You just do it, right? Or when you wake up in the morning, like brushing your teeth, right? It's just something that you automatically are just going to do, like not even really thinking about it and putting a lot of thought into it. But having to reconcile, that requires thought, that requires effort, right? And in
mm-hmm.
order to do that, sometimes you need something like a ritual to offset the fact that it's a more onerous task, right? So it's like, how do I make this fun? So the fact that you did that on your own without having like a ritual set up is wonderful. It's amazing that you were like, how do I do this? I need to do this thing. So that you recognize that, and you made it into something that not only for you that is helpful and impactful, but it is for all those other women also. Like, you're
Yeah.
creating a space for them to feel good, that they know that they have to do it. It makes the task feel good. And that's,
Mm-hmm.
again, it's retraining you and it's retraining them, so that money doesn't have to be, oh, I gotta do my budget. It's, hey, budget time, like, and that's that shift, so that you're doing it. So it's amazing.
Yeah. One of my friends and colleagues, her name is Sharissa Turnbull, and she's a financial empowerment specialist. And she refers to it as the heart work, not the hard work. And she says, do the heart work. And that's part of it too. And then doing my finding out I'm a bold adventurer and learning about what that is. Like, I made all these choices after I learned about Groove. And it's simply because I want to change. I want to get better. I want to develop a better relationship with money. I worked with this financial coach named Miata Edoga, and we were on a class. I had her come and speak to my clients, and she said, "Raise your hand if you plan to be super wealthy and you're going to have someone else manage your money." And I was like, "Oh, can't wait!" Right? And then she goes, "Okay, great. So when you have a relationship with money and you know what's going on with your money, and every day or every week you reconcile, which means you look at your money, you look at what you spent, you look at what's coming up, da 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 da." She goes, "Your money, you will have more money. It's just a byproduct of paying attention to it. The same way when you track calories, you make better choices with your food. If you have a 10,000 steps goal, you will hit those steps because there's like shame involved or whatever it is, right?"
Mhm.
So anyhow, there's so much more to what she teaches, but she said, okay, so if you have a relationship with money and you love and honor that relationship with money, because there are three things you cannot escape in this life. One is time, one is money, and one is yourself. So you have to have relationships with those three things. And she
Mhm.
said, so if you honor the sacredness of your relationship with money the same way you might honor your relationship with your husband, Are you going to have someone else manage your husband? You going to have someone else handle that? You have someone else handle your husband, Jessica? Right? I cracked up and I was like,
I just think that's so good. I think it's so funny. I think
it's true, right? When you look at it that way.
yeah, well, yes, but I think that there's also ways like you can have that personal relationship, but I also am a firm believer in like I don't know what I don't know. And so
Yes.
I definitely 100% like I am having somebody else do my taxes. I
Oh,
am
a
having
million percent. Yeah. What she's saying is like, you can't never look at it.
Oh yes, I agree with that 1,000%. Because for me, like my bigger thing is more just like I was like I even with investing, like I have somebody invest and do that stuff for me because while I know it and while I can talk about it and I think it's important, it's not my area, it's not my zone of genius. It's not something I enjoy doing and it's stressful for me because I don't know what I don't know. So there's something that happens and this is something that I learned from my researchers friends at the Common Sense Lab. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect and it's that idea of that when you don't know something, you think you're amazing. You're like, I'm so good at this. It's great. And then when you start to learn about it, you realize how much you actually don't know. And then you lose confidence in what you're doing because you have just enough knowledge to be dangerous, where you're like, now I'm really in trouble. And so your confidence level actually dips when you start learning more because of the fact that you know more and you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much that I don't know because I've learned this thing. So it's navigating that and that's where for me it was like okay I know this much about investing and I was like and I don't have the time and I don't also have the it makes me nervous and I feel less confident having to navigate that path when I'm also navigating and juggling all these other things. So which one of these things if I have to give up one of them, what is that thing that I'm going to give up? And it's that, and
Mhm.
maybe I could do it better, but maybe this guy does a better job than I could do, just so I don't have to worry about it and I can take it off my plate. So,
Hire an expert. That's what they're for,
yeah,
right?
exactly. Exactly. But I'm definitely with her where it's like you have to know your money. You have to know where it's going, you have to know what it's doing, you have to be able to look at it and see it, so that you can make those decisions and understand it. And again, to not be afraid I think is a really big thing. To have less anxiety and less stress and shift that perspective of like okay, I might not have a lot of it, but I'm getting there, right?
Mhm.
Or oh my gosh, I don't have any. Where do I go? Right? And
Mm.
and to navigate those situations and to say, okay, what are the risks I'm willing to take? What are the things that I should and shouldn't do? And if I don't know, not being afraid to ask, right? And not being afraid to say, oh, yeah, I don't know how to do this. Can you show me how? Right? Because that's another big thing is that people don't ask. They just don't know and they just live without it, and that's another big piece of what happens, in Groove is if you don't know how to do something, we want to get you to know how to do something. So if you don't know how to open a bank account, we're going to teach you how to open a bank account. If you don't know how to get a house, we'll teach you those basics, and then if you want to dig deeper, you can do that. But just like, here's where you got to start before you just like go and be like, I'm going to buy a house. Because it's not that easy because there's all of these other little steps that you need to understand prior to doing that.
Mhm. And also, don't make assumptions that you can't buy a house, or don't make assumptions that the bank isn't going to give you an account, or like any of those things, right? So to release that and then follow the guidance in Groove, but you can't make assumptions because then you're
No.
just judging. You're judging yourself and you're judging the external party that you don't even have a relationship with.
Yep, exactly. But again, that's the confidence part, right? Because when you don't believe in
Mhm.
yourself that you can do this or that you can't do that, and you hear all the other things out there, and you're listening to all of the noise instead of listening and being like, no, I want this thing. And maybe the thing that you buy and that house that you buy isn't your end all be all dream house, but maybe it's the thing that gets you on that path to your better, bigger dream house, and it gets you started, and it gets you understanding even more and doing the thing that you wanted, and that's where it gets to be special.
It is so special. Had I not bought my condo in 2005, I wouldn't have the house I have now, And if back then I had been like, I'm not buying a condo, I want a house with land, then like I probably would have nothing
Yeah.
because I didn't
Same,
invest then,
right? Isn't that
You have to
crazy to
start somewhere.
Yeah, you have to start somewhere. And I think that that's something that so many people neglect nowadays, is because they'll often be like, I want this thing. Nope, I'm not compromising. I don't compromise. I want this thing and I'm going to aim for that thing. And it's like sometimes you have to work your way up to that thing. You can't just start there, you know? And that goes, the same goes for jobs too, right? You can't start as a director if you're just graduated, and you need to start and understand the system, right? Like
Mhm.
there's a process in all of it. And I think that a lot of times people just want to start at the top, and but it's important to learn and grow to get to that, to that point.
Right, right. Because then if they don't, and through nepotism or whatnot, they get right to the top, they are depriving themselves of the learning and the experience for sustainable success. If you want to be a one-hit wonder, go right to the top. But if you
Yeah.
want to have a long career, get comfortable failing and have fun analyzing where you went wrong and what you did great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm a bold adventurer. So what does that mean? And feel free to, you can air any of my dirty laundry if you want to.
Yes. So here's the thing about bold adventurers, right? Like you are very much, and this is where I thought that we were the same, right? Because we you live in the moment when it comes to your money. You want to spend it, you're like, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I want to go to this concert. I want to go to Universal. I want to go do this thing. Everything's great. Everything's fine, right? And that's amazing, but that can sometimes lead to risks because you see it's not just in who you are with, like, hey, I want to go do these things. It's also with like opportunities and business wise, right? Of
Mhm.
like, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna go invest in this, and I'm gonna go try this thing, and I'm gonna, this person's amazing, you know, like,
This
and
podcast, like I'm putting a lot of time and resources into this podcast that's taking away from me growing my coaching business, and I'm hoping it pays off by the time you're watching this. If you're actually watching it, it paid off. How about that?
there you go, there you go. But no, like
Mhm.
I think that the thing is that, you know, you are such a big risk taker, right? That sometimes you don't navigate that portion of being cautious, right? And this is why you and I make such a good pair sometimes, because you'll be like, I'm gonna go to this thing, and I was like, that is completely illogical. Don't do that. It makes no sense. Please don't do that thing. It's great when it works out, right? When you're betting on red and it's coming up red, it's amazing. But
Mhm.
when you're betting on red and you're coming up black, it's
Yeah.
not, it can have as big, if not bigger, losses than your initial investment sometimes. And
Right.
that's
And I'm
where,
dealing with that with one of my properties right now. Like I can't get it rented, I can't get it sold. I thought it was going to be a really solid like flip into a rent, and it's just been a pain in the ass, and I kind of regret it, but I also feel like there's something bigger at play here for me to learn, and I also think the neighborhood I invested in is it's gentrifying right now, and it's really going to take off. So if it doesn't sell, it's going to make me $1 million in like
there you
10 years from now. But if
go.
I need the money right now, I'm screwed, right? So it's that kind of thing.
Yes, and that's the thing, right? Like, it's great. It's a great investment when you have the ability to make that kind of investment. Like, if you had the ability of time to wait 10 years for that investment to pay off, awesome. Do it all day long. But if
Mhm.
you need that money and you can't be waiting, then it's not, it goes back to that saying, right? A bird in hand is worth two in the bush all day long, right? And sometimes that means you're going to
Yeah,
lose
what the
out.
hell does that mean? I've heard that before and I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
It's a bird for eating. It's a bird for eating is the whole idea. So it's, if you have a bird
Oh,
and you have it in your hand and you've caught it, it's more valuable to you than two that are over there that you probably don't have yet, and you might lose out on both of them.
that is so funny. I think because I was vegetarian most of my life, and like think I think birds should just be free. I just never understood the analogy. So thank you for explaining that to me.
You are very welcome. But it's that kind of thing where sometimes it's not, and I think that's your lesson, right? Sometimes you can see the value and potential in something, and it might be there, but it's not there now, right? Whereas, like,
Right.
when I saw that same property, I was like, did you do this? This is a terrible idea. This is a terrible idea.
And I'm over here going, I'm just going to plant a bunch of bushes because they'll eventually attract a bunch of birds, right? So, okay, no,
And
I
I'm
get
like,
it.
I'm just going to wait in the car because I don't want to go in this house anymore because it's just, I'm just good. I'm good on this house.
It's really cute now, by the way.
It's adorable. It's adorable, and it's wonderful. But again, I think it was the anxiety that I felt for you of that risk that gives it a different aura for me, right? And so that's where my where that comes into play for me. Like, it is a beautiful house. It's a wonderful house. It will be worth a lot, but even when you were embarking on it and turning it into this beautiful thing and putting in that awesome fridge and like redoing the floors and doing all this stuff, when I saw it, I saw chaos for you, right? And I think that's where it comes for me, is
this
that
information would have been useful to me yesterday.
I said I didn't love it. I said fine. You should know that it's fine means that probably, but it was already too late. You already went in. You were in.
I already did. And my biggest mistake about it, and look, it'll rent or it'll sell and it'll be fine, or I'll sell it one day. Like, it'll all work out. But I think the biggest mistake is I had already bought a duplex from this seller, and I already have another investment property somewhere else, and I have land in 2 other places. Like, it was time to, as my real estate mentor Angelica, she said, it was time to regroup, right? It was time to, like, the troops needed to come back. They needed to come back to base camp and like recalibrate and have water and and do all that. It wasn't time to reinvest. It was too soon from the last big investment. And so that's why I'm now feeling uncomfortable with how long it's been sitting vacant while it's on the market. And I don't like that feeling. So to all my bold adventurers, slow down.
Yeah, that's good,
it, right?
And it's really good. Like, and just sometimes, yes, you will miss out on a huge opportunity. But sometimes
the FOMO for us bold adventurers is legit.
Yes, and that's the thing, right? Like, you're like, it could make us $1 million. We have to do it. We could become bazillionaires, right? But you could not, like, it's those situations where, as I sit here, like, again, the dreamer, I'm like, it's a little too much for me. What else can I do? I'll just work harder so I can get to that point, right? Whereas you're just like, I'm gonna do something crazy. I'm like, don't do crazy.
Yeah, I want it to be fun. I was talking to Stephen M. Hughes about not this particular situation, but about being a bold adventurer. And I said, do you think some of this behavior and some of the behavior you've touched on today comes from the fact that my mother died when I was 12 years old, and she died suddenly. She was hit by a car. And for a long time, I thought, what's the point of saving? What's the point of even investing? I've changed since then, but what's the point? Because life could be over at any minute. And then she died when she was 37. Once I passed the threshold of being 37 and I was still alive, I was like, maybe like it's okay to save and invest but there was some trauma there that connected to these behavior patterns. And so now I get to heal that.
Yeah. And I think you're 1,000% right, because a lot of that for you, it translated into my life as well. Like, maybe not in terms of my mother, but in terms of my uncle who died when he was 25, in terms of my grandmother, in terms of like all of these people in your life that like in high school, right? All these individuals whose lives were cut short. And for, you're like, well, yeah, oh my gosh, yeah, anything could happen right now. Like, what am I thinking? Like, yeah, I'm gonna go have some fun right now. Yes, I am.
You and I, we always joke, like, we both went through a really serious illness around the same time in our life. And I looked at our astrology charts the other day. I'm like, why do we have all these things like lined up? And like, even in reflection, right? We both lost somebody really near and dear to us in high school, of similar age, relationship, the whole thing. And those things imprint on how we think and feel about the world.
Yeah. 100%. And again, in everything in the world, including your finances. And that's why it's so important when people are like, that's something else. I'm just going to go to therapy, but I'm not going to get my money house in order. You're like, no, you
do both.
things. You have to do both things. You can't just pick one because this one won't heal this one, and this one is needed to heal this one. They work in tandem. So it's just a very interesting
I'm
circle.
so grateful that I am doing this life with you.
Me too. Thank you so much. Like, it's just thank you for making my life fun. It's very funny because one of the things that I'm always most thankful for, and the boys know this dearly, is like my friends and the people in my life who make my life so amazing and wonderful. And you are one of my few amazing and wonderful humans in it that make it worth living. So thank
I
you.
love you. I love you. Okay. So there's about 8 personalities, and it was really fun diving into yours and mine, though we probably don't have time to go through all of them, but that's what the website is for. But as far as the most common ones that our listeners might identify with the most, what would you say are the next, like, just 1 or 2 most common ones?
Yeah, so I think the cautious enthusiast is one, and the cautious enthusiast is somebody who's always like loves to do stuff with their money, but they like to have their financial decisions in place in advance, right? They don't want to sit there and just like they're not like us where we're like, let's go do something fun. They're like, I've planned for this Disney vacation 3 years ago, and so we're gonna do all the things, but it's only because I planned for all of the things to be done, right? So they're very much of like, we're going to do this, but we have to stay in this box and do this thing. So like that's one of them.
I'm related to one of them.
You might be.
I'm related to one of those. Okay, got
Yeah.
it.
Yep. And the other one would be kind of like a thrifty strategist, right? Who's always looking for a deal and will sometimes not get the deal because they're always waiting for that deal. They're like, it's going to go down. It's going to go down, and who's always looking for a deal and who's really has a hard time spending money because of that fact, right? So even if they need something, sometimes they won't get the thing that they need because they're waiting because they don't see the value in that thing, even if they need that thing.
Why don't they see the value? Is it they're not seeing the value in themselves having it at the current moment?
I think it's because of the cost, and the cost is prohibitive to them, even if it's what the thing costs. But they're like, I could live without that, or I'll get this thing instead, right? So a prime example could be, someone that I know where they might need a new pair of shoes. Okay, let's go get a new pair of shoes. Let's go get you this good pair of shoes. That pair of shoes is really expensive. I'm just going to go get this $15 pair of shoes instead. Don't get the $15 pair of shoes because they're going to last you for a month and they're going to fall apart, and then I'm going to have to buy another $15 pair of shoes next month. Can we just get you the $70 pair of shoes and have them last 6 months? Nope, I'm going to buy the $15 pair of shoes. So now I'm into, for that same 6 months,
90.
Thank you. So, I'm like,
Don't tell anybody that I'm actually decent at math because it's going to ruin my reputation.
Well, for me, I'm like, okay, wait, 15 times 2 is 30. And so 30, 60, 90. So now I've spent $20 more than I would have intentionally spent had I just gotten the more expensive pair of shoes now. So it's the idea of they think they're getting a deal, even if it's not a deal, because they're just looking to not spend as much because they're so concerned about the amount that even if it's going to benefit them, they don't see that other part of it.
Got it. So once they go through the different things in the app, they can kind of, I don't want to say lighten up, but they can open their mind a little bit to the different types of value that's out there, which is actually going to save them more money in the future if they can shift their perspective, but they have to feel safe doing it. And then you can help them get to that level of safety if it's appropriate.
Exactly. And I think even they don't even notice that they're doing it, right? So first of all, it's the recognition that, hey, this is what you're doing. They're like, wait, what? Like that life, that wake up moment, that light bulb goes off of like, huh? And so how do you, now that you know that you're doing this thing, well, here's how to navigate it, right? And that's not to say you need to start going out and just spending your money freely. It's okay to need things, and it's okay to get something that's worth this much because of these reasons. But if you don't have the money, then that's one thing. But when you look and you can see reassure yourself with the fact that, okay, I have my emergency fund, I have enough money in the bank, I have these things, it's okay, right? It's that freedom and that ability and that permission to say it's okay to go get this thing, right? And retraining your brain and being more mindful about the fact that when you're in the store and you're about to buy the $15 pair, be like, wait, no, I need the better pair. I've been through this lesson before so many other times. I'm just going to get the better thing and go from there.
Right. And look, there's a time and a place. If you've only got $15, you buy the $15 pair of shoes.
A
But when you're
thousand
not,
percent. Yeah.
right. But like out of that situation, I think there's some like, I don't, I, I'm not a money therapist, but I think there's some like self-worth that could be increased,
Hmm.
that you
Yeah.
deserve the nicer pair of shoes, honey. And, maybe I'm an extremist as a bold adventurer, but I like nice
Well,
shoes.
I think it's not even like, like you deserve the nicer pair of shoes. It's more you lived in a place probably, right? And again, I am also not a money therapist, but you probably came from some place where there was a lot of money scarcity. And so as a result of that, you're now afraid to spend. Right? There's
Totally
two
fair.
ways that money scarcity can work. Either you're afraid to spend it, or when you get it, the second you get it, you spend it because you don't know when it's going to come back again. That's what kind of leads with the thrifty strategist, is that idea that money might not be there. So they're afraid to spend more on the thing because they might need that money for something else, right?
Mhm.
I don't want to fill up my whole gas tank because all my money is going to be tied up in my gas tank. Right? This is literally a
Mm.
phrase that happens in my life. Well, then all that money is going to be tied up in the gas tank. It's okay for the money to be tied up in the gas tank because we will use that gas. Nope. Nope. I don't want that money tied up in my cabinets, and I don't want that money tied up in my gas tank, because what'll happen is if I need that money, I'm not going to have any money to use it on things.
Oh
You
my
know?
gosh. I remember getting into like an argument with one of my relatives because he borrowed the car and he put like a couple bucks worth of gas in, like
Hmm.
we would do in high school when we only had $10, right?
Yeah,
And I was
exactly.
like, hey, you went to the gas station, which I find to be one of the most annoying things. I friggin' hate getting gas. You
Yeah.
already went there, you did all the motions, and you didn't fill it up. Like, no,
Didn't fill it
I'll go back in a couple
up
days.
again. Yeah.
Why would you want to do? Why do you want to go back? I don't understand it.
And that's my thing. That's for me the same exact way. Like I have, and I think it's a little bit of my OCD in me too, of that, like, is this, it's a waste of my time to go here and to do this again later. Right. I don't want to have to come back here again in 2 days and feel that stress of like, oh, tank's almost empty. Like I've already been there when, like, and again, I have the rule, like my almost empty is a quarter of a tank because of dad brain, right? Of like,
Yeah, yeah.
never let it go. And so
And you might have been with me a couple times in high school when my car just completely ran out of gas on the freeway and or whatnot. So that
yeah.
was
No,
I
we
don't do
were
that
there
anymore.
one time. Yes, I accurately remember that, and I was like, "When will you learn your lesson?"
Learned it, all
Yeah,
good.
see, it really took all those times.
Before I let you go, when you win the lottery jackpot and you have, which could be up to $1 billion or more at this point, I want to know two things. What is the very first thing you do when you find out you won? And two, what do you do with your time now that money no longer needs to be a concern? Not that it's a concern, but what do you do with your time now that you have more money than you could ever imagine having?
Oh goodness. Okay, so one, what's the first thing that I do? I probably wouldn't believe it, and I'd probably be like, "Wait, what? What? What?" And I would probably just probably like get super excited and cry, and then just be like, "I can't tell anybody," and then like secretly, like just go to like the lottery office and go handle it that way, right? Is probably like handle it that way, because just to make sure that it's real, right? Because again, it doesn't, a piece of paper doesn't necessarily feel real. It has to be real, right? I need to be able to like see the suitcase of money for real, right?
It's in a suitcase.
Yeah,
Also, when you
just be a
go to the
giant treasure chest filled with gold at this point, right? Like,
Jesus, and if there's a robber standing by ready to rob anybody, wouldn't they be hanging out like near the lottery office? I would say like go with like please bring somebody with you.
yeah, exactly. I wouldn't go by myself. Exactly. I'd be like, we got to go for a ride, and but I actually would probably call my financial advisor or a financial advisor and be like, take this, put it somewhere right now, and give me a week to let me just think and sit on things for like a week, and so I can
Mhm.
like start thinking.
Yeah, calling
Um,
my uncle who works at Merrill Lynch is probably one of the first things that I would do as well.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay, so then now you've got all the money.
I'm
How do
not
you
going to
spend
spend it all on candy at an outlet store. Not do that. That is not what's in my.
Little bit. Okay, how do you spend your time now that you have all this money?
I think that if Groove wasn't finished and we were still like working and building and growing it, I would continue to want to do that. And I would probably look to help more people, right? Like that's, me, like for better or for worse, I am a helper of people. So it would be, I was telling even the boys the other day, I was like, after you guys go to college, I might go to nursing school, right? So I can go become a nurse so I can help more people. I would set up charitable trusts and give money to St. Jude and give money to different places that need it, while again still investing it. So it would be like a little thing that I could do to help facilitate all of these things that I would like to see happen in the world.
That's
So
beautiful.
that's probably what I would do. I would go to help more people and and take some really fun, awesome vacations.
I love it, and you deserve to do so, darling. I think you were definitely a doctor in a past life. And earlier I was joking that you're a bossy friend. So I'm just going to tell everybody I went to the doctor the other day, and I texted Jessica that I was on my way to the doctor, and she goes, "You're going to call me and you're going to put me on speaker as soon as the doctor walks in the room so I could hear everything that they're saying to you so that I can tell you what else to ask them." I was like, "Okay, mom." And I did. And what was funny was when the doctor came in, I was like, "Just so you know, I have my best friend on the phone and she's on speaker and she just wants to hear what it is you're telling me. And it's really just so I don't have to repeat myself, when I call her back." And she just looks at me and she goes, "It's okay." She knows your type.
She knows my type. Well, again, like for everything that's gone on with both of us, right?
Yeah.
It's knowing what to ask, knowing how to ask it, and being forceful enough when you're not being listened to, right? Like sometimes you need that.
You
So
do. And I believe that advocacy that lives within you that wants the best for people and knows to stand up and ask those questions and use your intuition to ask the questions that other people aren't thinking about, even the professionals, that has what has led you to all the success in what you created. And you're helping so many people, countless people. I mean, you get to experience the data on who actually logs in, so you know how many people Groove is helping, but that's not adding up all the people that are impacted positively in the lives of the users of Groove.
that's
So
true.
thank you,
That's
Jess.
no problem. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's just been so wonderful just chatting with you. Just
I love
even
it.
though it was weird because it was kind of about me and it's a weird thing. It's always a weird thing to talk about yourself sometimes, but I thank you for having
Yeah.
me.
Well, thank you for being a trailblazer and being willing to talk about yourself and your journey, because it's now opening the door for my audience to get to experience your brilliance and to learn and heal what's going on with their money and share those different perspectives. So,
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you. And I'm glad I can help.
you're welcome. We did not put as many laugh tracks in as we could have. Yay. Jessica Patel, everybody. Jessica Patel.
It does last way too long, and this just means now I have to come back and we're gonna just really, really lean into it even more.
We are. And all those applause, get used to them, baby. It's just this or something greater. It's just the beginning. Mwah.
Mwah. Love you.
Love you. Okay, bye.
The only way I'll know if you're loving the show is if you leave a comment, 5 stars, and subscribe. Be sure to connect with me at patreon.com/The Brilliance Method for access to additional content and to work with me every month in our spiritual think tank.
This is already getting off to a ridiculously dumb start.
Wayne's World intro.
No, right? He goes 5, 4.
You can't mouth the words. You can't mouth the numbers. You just
That's
have
right. Okay. 5, 4.